Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing tonight? Welcome to the Quarterbin Comics Cavalcade, issue number 1. I'm going to go through some indie comics from the 80s and other eras, mostly a lot of modern stuff if it's not from the 80s. Just a bunch of stuff I managed to pick up at the local comic shop. Usually my guy there, he lets me fill a short box of quarter comics for $10, so they end up working out to less than a dime a piece. You can't go wrong. All sorts of interesting little things that I find. We'll see how far we get through a box or so. I've actually gotten about 3 short boxes in the last couple weeks. When they're only $10 a piece, you can't go wrong. But yeah, we'll end up, I'm just going to tweet this out. Let's see if we can get some people watching. Check out the stream. All right, and I might put some background music on too, just so that when I'm not talking, it doesn't sound too cheesy. All right, hope everybody's been good. It's been a while since I've done any streaming, so I felt like getting back into the groove of things. Seems like every time I feel like streaming, there's a bunch of other people streaming. I just got to learn not to worry about that. Just jump on whenever I'm feeling like it. I got to get back into the swing of things. All right. Let's close some of these distractions here. A lot of these books I have not even checked out myself yet. So I just started going through bins, and if it looked interesting, if it had a cool cover, if it was a number 1, if it was something from the 70s or 80s or even in the 90s, a lot of image stuff I'm grabbing now whenever I find it. Stuff I didn't really pick up back in the day because it seemed really cheesy to me back then, but I've grown to appreciate it a lot more since. So this is mostly going to be a lot of the 80s black and white indie stuff. because the first couple piles I went through, that was what he had gotten traded in, I guess, by somebody. I think it was another store that decided to like bring a bunch of stuff in and sell him. So I'll just kind of spread some of it out here so you can get an idea. There's some interesting like kind of and hopefully my mic picks up here. I'll try not to move around too much. Let's see if I can adjust that. Got some ash cans, some old like continuity comic stuff. What else do I got here? Guns N' Roses, rock and roll comics. There's a lot of weird stuff. So yeah, when I'm looking through old back issues like this, like I'm not really in it for anything particular. I mean, I picked a lot of this stuff up just because it looked interesting. And here we got Art of the Ninja, Ninjutsu #1, Solson Publications. Rich Buckler artwork, looks like. Oh wait, that's Codename Ninja. This is Chuck Watkowitz. Oh, look at this. We can learn the origins of the ninjutsu, art of meditation, invisibility, walking and stealth. Silent steps of the ninja. I wonder if there's actually any people that learned how to be a ninja from these comics. This kind of reminds me of those, I think there was some Ninja Turtles spin-offs that actually had some martial arts training guides in them. I had the Michelangelo one when I was a kid, but don't have it anymore, and I think they've actually gone up in price quite a bit in the years since. All sorts of cool weapons. See, stuff like this when I was a kid would have just blown my mind. So I used to actually pick up like Black Belt magazine and different ninja mags back then, and tried ordering some nunchucks and some throwing stars out of the back. And here I could have learned my shuriken throwing technique. I used to make them in metals class too, out of sheet metal, until I got caught throwing them at the teacher at the blackboard. Yeah, this is kind of like, I guess another reason too I really enjoy a lot of these 80s indie comics is that they remind me a lot of what's going on in comic books now, in Comicsgate, as well as just the indie scene in general, whether people are just doing their own crowdfunders. Because I think a lot of these comics from back in the 80s, these indie ones, were born out of the Ninja Turtles craze and some of the other like outlaw comics, as the Kayfabe Comics channel puts it. A lot of these like indie bad boy outlaw horror and action comics that didn't skimp on the guts and gore. Got ninjutsu. Got, let's see, it says rock and roll comics, Guns N' Roses. This is 7th printing. I think I remember this from back in the day. I had a couple of these. Is it Revolutionary Comics? Yeah, Revolutionary Comics. I had a bunch of these. Again, probably out of the quarter bin or dollar bin, even back in the day, back in the 90s when I found these. It's 1990. Kind of like a bio of Guns N' Roses. I think some groups ended up suing this company too when they were releasing these comics. I got the old kind of 8-bit graphics done on a Macintosh, pinups. All right, well, I'm going to throw this link out there. Let's see what kind of music we got. I went and tracked down some of the Godlike music tracks. This is one of them that went into the Godlike trailer, which thankfully is copyright free. I'll have to give this one a read later on. I'm kind of curious. Oh, here we go. Nuke the New Kids. They don't like comic books we published about them, so they tried to stop us with an injunction. They lost the injunction. Now they want to sue us and keep us from publishing Rock and Roll Comics number 12, featuring our story about New Kids on the Block. So here you go. If you want to, I wonder if that 1-900 number is still active. Probably something else now. Some of these might have some like water damage, rough shape. Basically, if anything's like a 4.0 and up, I'm happy. So that was Rock and Roll. I think I got another one here. What's this? Madonna. Rock and Roll Comics, number 17. $19.90 as well. This one looks suitably cheesy. This actually has like mini stories in it. Madudu. This is a satirical story not to be taken seriously. She's been called the greatest female music star ever. She sold millions of albums, had dozens of hit songs, and never bit the wax tadpole. How can somebody be so popular when they're really just full of Madudu? Okay. Fable of Princess Paula. Oh, this is Paula Abdul. Yeah, Paula Abdul is hijacking the Madonna comic. We even got an appearance of Arsenio Hall. Let's play the other track from Godlike. Turns out he mixed 2 different songs for his trailer, and I found them both. Oh, look, there she is as Dick Tracy. Boom chakalaka. That's a classic. R.I.P. Neil Adams. Samari, Mistress of the Martial Arts. Yeah, number 1. Don't know if this is the second volume or the first volume. I know there's 2 volumes of this that Continuity put out. But yeah, this is actually in decent shape for a 10-cent comic. Mark Beecham does the art. Yeah, Mark Beecham. Lots of gratuitous crotch shots with Mark Beecham. Lots of butt shots. Some good old AAT, ass titty. Kind of dark colors, but I do dig the art style and the kind of the old school style of these Continuity comics. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with a lot of these issues. I'll probably end up reading some of them, but I may end up just doing some like grab bags or mystery boxes or something like that and throw them up on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or Etsy or something like that. I think I have enough now, almost 2 full long boxes in the last month or so that I've picked up. I usually just buy like about a short box at a time. Like I said, for $10 I can fill a short box, so that's less than 10 cents a piece. Can't go wrong with that. Hell, even for just if these were each a quarter, I think he usually does a quarter each or 5 for $1, or because I buy so many, like I said, I can fill a short box for $10. So, and he had I think about 6 or 8 long boxes worth come in the last couple months, so he's just trying to get rid of them as quick as he can. Cycle through them. Probably change up the music every couple tracks or so. Right, so that was summary number 1. See what we got here. This is some sort of like, almost looks like a fanzine or something, or like a ash can. So it's just a little bit smaller than a regular comic, but I do like how it's. Right, that's number 2. Here's number 1. First issue, Club 13. Club 13, number 1, June 1990, 8-Ball Press. Written and drawn by Jim Kuhn. Club 13, created by Jim Kuhn. A very first-timer comic book, it looks like, but still kind of cool that people were throwing this kind of thing together in the late 80s, early 90s, just trying to get into the comics game. Live nude girls. Oh, is Club 13 a strip club? See, and I could sit here and I could read these issues out loud, but I don't know how good most of these are. That would probably just end up being a waste of time. Once I go through the stack and I find some gems, and again, in the title as I put, do we have some vintage gems or do we have some vile garbage in here? And I mean, I'm probably just going to end up pawning off the garbage stuff after a while, but there might be some decent finds in here. I did actually find a Detective Comics 500. That's probably like a 7.0 or up for like I said, under 10 cents, and that's like a $25 book. So there's a few real gems I found. And there's Club 13 number 2. See, stuff like this I've never ever come across in all my years. You can even tell by the cut up here, it's kind of rough cut. So some of these might even be like handmade with the red paper. I've just done at the Xerox Copy Center. Yeah, it looks like Club 13 is a strip club. And now, guys and girls, Club 13 is proud to present the hot, the luscious, the juicy Pink Pussycat. Going, I don't think I'll ever get tired of looking at that. The Pink Pussycat, she is mine. Looking is all you'll ever be able to do, monsieur. Okay. Come and get it. Club 13, number 3. Interesting. Magazine number 1. Only $1.75. Well, I'm lucky. I got it for 10 cents. This one looks pretty basic. Okay, this is Antarctic Press. '85, August '85. Volume 1, Number 1. And I have not looked up any of these comics either. I have no idea if any of these are worth anything or hard to find. I would assume some of these might have pretty low print runs just because they were done so independently, right? So, Adventures of Stick Figure Man in the Menace of Dr. Evil. These are showing up okay. I tried to, I'm just using my webcam for this, but I don't really have the best setup right now. I'm just doing it off a TV table, TV tray thing, so hopefully I'll be able to get my setup better worked out. Now let's do some Fragaboom. Some of this art's alright. I mean, some of it's pretty amateur, but you know, it's like I kind of like the black and white aesthetic with a lot of the first-time artists. Just because you can kind of see where they started, and it has that real homegrown feel to it. So yeah, it's Magazine number 185. And there's the one that was shown earlier, Black Zeppelin number 1. See if we're still streaming out. Alright. Story and art, Gene Day. Inker, David Day. Letterer, Susan Thomas. Never heard of any of these people. Interesting to kind of find out, like, what, if anything's happened to a lot of these people. Are they still in comics? Somehow I doubt it. There's guys like, you know, obviously some of the old-time creators that have managed to stick around this whole time. You got Don Chin from Parody Press. I think I might even have some Don Chin stuff in here, or I think I came across some. I ended up finding a Zen Intergalactic Ninja issue that he wrote. And obviously I have a bunch of his adolescent black belt radioactive hamsters, or adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters. I don't know about the art in this one, but I do like the cover. It's kind of a cool cover. Acrylic painting. That's what a lot of these are. They're just like cover buys or number 1. Look here, we got. So this is not entirely indie. This is TSR Comics, Warhawks 2050. This is actual game module? I wonder. Oh, looks like a comic, okay. So I've always actually wondered about doing like a role-playing game manual or like, you know, campaign stuff in a comic book format. I know it's been done before, but I just don't know if anybody's going in that direction right now. But it would be a cheap alternative to printing, you know, a full color soft cover manual, is just doing it in comic book format, because you could do smaller books more often for lower price, I imagine. Wouldn't necessarily have to be in color. Could do grayscale or just limited color. Yeah, okay, so here it's got some adventure stuff in here. Buzz Dixon writer, Dan Spiegel artist. Again, not really familiar. The names ring a bell. I think Dan Spiegel rings a bell for the art. Some man-eating plants. Can never go wrong with that. Doesn't look like we have anybody in the chat, so I have nobody able to tell me whether these comics are coming through clear. It looks like it's not too bad. Visible. And we actually got like some counters, yeah, like some actual gameplay cards or something. What's Warhawks? Number 1, number 2. And I got a map on the inside cover. See, I wouldn't want to have to take the comic apart to be able to do this stuff. Oh, here we got some stats at the back. Oh, that guy's in a plant costume. Got the ghillie suit on. Alright, Warhawks 2050. Never heard of it. What's this? Perry Dog Press. Mark and Leah Hernandez. Kendra. Legacy of the Blood. Number 1. March of 1987. For mature readers. I don't know if there's any spicy content in any of these, but I guess we'll find out. Kind of a bit of a manga style. I guess it was about the mid-80s when manga and anime, good old Japanimation, started making its presence known in the North American market. Remember, that's the first time I ended up seeing any anime for the first time. Let's what we got from. Let's do some rock here. Just don't want it to be too loud. Got the first sketch of the character in the back. Another little kind of some pinup art. Curious to look up a lot of these issues and see, like, I think a lot of these are just like one hit wonder, not even one hit, but like just one shot issues. There's another Ninja, codename Ninja from Solson, which I think is isn't that Saul Brodsky, one of the Marvel guys that started this company. But this is more of an actual action ninja story, it looks like. Buckwheat Comics. I'll be doing OT. I'm assuming this guy becomes a ninja. He's like a white dude that learns the ways of the ninja. Oh, Iron Maidens. A bunch of bodybuilder women. I'll have to look for that. I don't think I have that. Samurai the 13th. Anyway, more good old ninja style action. Codename Ninja number 1, Rich Buckler artwork. Oh, I bet it's because Flashcast is tonight. That's why nobody's in here. Yeah, so if you end up watching this on the replay and you found any of this even remotely interesting, or you look forward to seeing some other stuff, because I think I'm going to do this every week. So I kind of go through most of these comics, do some show and tell streams. Give me a subscription. I'm not at 50 yet. I think I'm 2 or 3 away. So on the road to the first 100. Promise I'm going to start streaming and at least on a weekly basis and making some videos a couple times a week. Don't know if I can afford the time to make 2 or 3 a day like most people seem to be nowadays, but I guess I could try. This actually has some pretty decent art. Was this Assassins? 13 Assassins? Yeah, 13 Assassin Comics Module number 1 from TSR. See, a lot of these comics too, they've got a lot of dialogue, they've got a lot of kind of in-depth writing, something that you don't see in a lot of modern comics. Back there was just a lot more care given to crafting the story, making issues, you know, single floppies, standalone stories that you could enjoy on their own. You didn't necessarily need to have every single issue in the series or in the run to actually get something out of it. You'd have little backup stories and stuff. I do like a lot of the anthology titles from this era, whether it's like House of Mystery or Weird War Tales and all that stuff from DC. So I'm going to try to get some of those thrown in the mix too eventually. I know I've got a couple boxes of those. 13 Assassins. What's this? Look at some of these like old school. Oh, let me get rid of my name there. It's covering stuff up. Cat and Mouse number 1 from EF Graphics Silverline, 1988. This one's actually in color. Nice newsprint. Written by Roland Mann. Pencils by Mitch Bird. Some of these like indie superhero titles are quite inventive and quite like inspired, just because they were trying to do something that Marvel and DC weren't really doing at the time. They sometimes would be a little bit more, I don't want to say surreal, but they definitely mixed more of the kind of the fantastical elements in. This book actually looks pretty good. I'm kind of curious to read this one. I've always kind of liked the like the guy and gal duo team up. Just kind of get that yin and yang aspect going. Bit of the dynamic. It's almost 1990s. Silverline. Do you know where your heroes are at? So it looks like they were on their way to trying to create some sort of shared universe or something. It says Silver Storm. Looks like the Michelin Man, cross between the Michelin Man and Iron Man. That's kind of interesting. Got kind of a Cheesy one, Reacto Man, the Human Dynamo, number 1. B-Movie Comics. 1987. Created, written, and illustrated by Ken Holowinski. So what, he's like a mild-mannered scientist who then becomes Reacto Man. It's kind of an interesting getup. Some of these songs don't loop long enough either. Let's see, what do I got here? Let's do this one. Well, if nothing else, these streams will force me to go through these stacks of comics and actually deal with them. I'm gonna have to I'll try to like put stuff in order, you know, get it all alphabetized so that I can get it sorted and put away so it's not just sitting around very long. And I'll usually keep a short box handy of just stuff I'm wanting to read soon. So if I find anything interesting, I'm gonna kind of pull it aside and keep it on the Prelude Graphics Alternate Heroes, number 1, featuring the Solar Knight, the Crime Hater, and the Equalizers. December 1986. Oh, this has got some interesting art. Hal Jones. Oh, those are dedications. I saw Neil Adams' name in there. I was like, Neil Adams did something for this? No, it's some other guy. Created and produced by Hal Jones. Yeah, good use of blacks. A lot of... Quite a few panels per page, though. Looks like the artist probably did the lettering, too. Wow, that's a lot of dialogue. See if I can go full screen on here so you guys can see a little bit better. This might be somewhat forgettable. There's just so much going on here. I'm gonna have to like read this later and see if there's actually anything to this story or not. That's the problem with some of this really heavily written stuff, is you think there's a story there, but turns out there's not a lot going on. Kind of like that though. It's not fully a wraparound, but there is another. I don't know if that's gonna. Undie-Dog number 1, Halley's Comics. It's a play on Halley's Comet, isn't it? You know, like the old school dot matrix text here on the inside cover. I'm a bit of a sucker for some of like the funny animal books. I used to love Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew when I was a kid, and it's kind of one of my sentimental favorites still to this day. Yeah, kind of more of a humorous book. Some of these I may not end up actually flipping through all the art, because all the pages, because the Sleaze Brothers #1, Epic Comics, 1989, June. Andy Lanning, penciler and creator, yeah, I've heard of him. This is obviously some sort of Blues Brothers ripoff. Okay, nobody move. Nice and sleazy does it. Hold that pose right there. Wow, what a picture. Your wife's going to love this. Ooh, my word. She's making mad love to some sort of weird tentacle creature. That would actually make like a really good thumbnail. It's kind of weird ambient spacey stuff for the music. I need to find some like long 15 or 20 minute long tracks that I can just play so they don't sound like they repeat too often. I do like the cartoony style in this. This is one I'll probably read later on because I do like the kind of the Mad Magazine style humorous stuff. Get the whole lineup there. Here we go. I found these. I don't know. Some kind of later Jack Kirby stuff. Silver Star from Pacific Comics. #2, April 1983. I think I might have #1 in decent condition, and these were, like I said, just from the quarter bins, so might have to try and collect all these eventually. I think there's only about 10 of them or so. Created, written, and drawn by Jack Kirby, lettered in ink by Mike Royer. Damn, I liked Floyd Custer. I liked him. Blam. Can never go wrong with Jack Kirby art. Even like at his worst, it was still leaps and bounds better than most of the stuff of that era. Just in terms of like the composition and the dynamism in the panels. Oh, Steve Ditko backup story, The Mocker in With These Hands. So maybe Kirby and Ditko were like kind of helping each other out here in terms of like getting each other jobs or something. I've got to learn more about like how well Kirby and Ditko got along. I haven't read too many stories about that. It's kind of a cool one. I got 2 of those. Silver Star number 3. A visual novel. They just don't do covers like they used to. Like I'm getting a little tired of the pinup covers that they always do now. Like I know it's mostly because they want to be able to sell, use the art on other media, whether it's like T-shirts or posters or whatever. But just kind of like the action panels, like it was like a story cover, like it was ripped out of the actual comic, where they've got the caption boxes and things like that on the cover and the larger titles. I do miss that. I wish they would kind of go back to that. I know every now and then you see like the retro covers and stuff, but The Good, the Bad, and the Miserable, Satan's Children, next issue. I'm sure Satan had very lovely kids. Oops, this back up. So letters page. Bruce Berry, art. Flynn, written by Richard Kyle, drawn by D. Bruce Berry. Chapter 1, The Golden Girl. All right. Oh. May as well stay with the theme here. Silver Star number 5. Just checking Twitter, checking the stream here. This one actually feels like it's got a bit higher budget. The paper feels a bit nicer. The colors pop a little better. November 83. I'm sure all this stuff's been collected by now. I wonder if he went and I think he brought this stuff over to Topps, because I think Topps did those Kirbyverse issues in the late 80s, early 90s as well. Vanguard Illustrated, I've got that. My back issues. There's this backup story, Viking Heroes, Last of the Viking Heroes. Interesting. Old school photo cover, Fright Night number 8. The Revenge of Evil Ed. Some of these like watercolor and airbrush colors that they did in these, this is First or Now Comics, yeah, did kind of set them apart in terms of their look at the time. I remember that even back in the day as a kid, noticing the difference from the flat colors, but of like Marvel and DC. Kind of looks dated now, but I don't know, it just gives it a certain quality, certain character. I actually really like this Fright Night movie too. Back in the 80s, I used to watch it quite often. I haven't seen it probably in 10 years, but might have to revisit that movie. See, stuff like that's cool. Hope I'm not shaking the camera around too much, but let me get to focus. I don't know, my camera's not focusing very well. I'm gonna have to figure out a better setup. And there you got Ed with the X, the cross on his forehead. There he's looking normal. Giant Size Mini Comics number 3, Parables from Uncle Ron's Back Porch. Another parody book. This has got to be mid-80s too then, yeah. December 86. Uncle Screwy builds a soapbox racer. This looks kind of interesting. Soapbox Hell, Scores of Mangled Kitties. And they said comics haven't always been political. I mean, come on, look at this. Because the ketchup stain obscures a 0 in his owner's manual, Howie the Hat checks his oil every 20 miles. How come you always add a few drops after you check it? To replace the oil, I just wiped off the dipstick. Don't you know anything about cars, Pete? It's approximately 20 miles. Remove the blah, 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 blah. It's supposed to be 200 miles. Hell, even 200? I thought you'd think it'd be like 2,000, but okay. So you got a lot of little like short one-page stories and strips and stuff. And this looks like, okay, this is going on a couple pages at least. That's kind of cool. I want to find that. Fusion. It's got some lion guy. Let me get that to focus. Focus. Albedo number 13. Keep an eye out. I think it's Albedo number 3 is the first appearance of Usagi Yojimbo, the samurai rabbit from Stan Sakai, and obviously people know him from Ninja Turtles as well. Used to have a copy of that back in the day, but I traded it in and I should have kept it because now it's worth like a couple $100 at least, but I think I only made like 50 or 60 bucks at the time. This Albedo has some interesting art as well. It's kind of a mix between like manga and science fiction, like heavy metal style stuff. Got a couple issues of this too in my back issues. It's kind of like all anthropomorphic. Hence Albedo Anthropomorphics. Very cool stuff. Just don't make them like they used to. There you go. Honeymooners, the comic book number 1 of 24. So that's a mini series right there when they've got it already planned out. September 87. used to kind of like the Honeymooners when I was younger, but I haven't watched any in years. His art's pretty good, actually. Kind of a cool caricature style. And got a nice portrait of Audrey Meadows. Wasn't EVS talking about some like who'd you rather the other day between Audrey Meadows and the other housewife? Oh, this actually has a poster in it too. The cover, can't tell. It looks like a painted poster. I wonder how well the jokes play. I'll have to read this later and see. Jackie Gleason. All right, what do we got here? Zot number 2. I think I found a bunch of Zots and I grabbed whatever I could find. Might even have some duplicates, but I've already got number 1. It is kind of a longer running series. I want to say it probably went like, oh God, what, 50 or 75 issues, I think. But yeah, Scott McCloud, famous for understanding comics. Kind of the his treatises on what makes comics and how to make comics, which I really do enjoy those books. But yeah, the Zot issue 1 was kind of interesting, so I've been keeping an eye out for these back issues if they're cheap. And so yeah, when I find them in the Quarterbin, I'm gonna grab them whenever I can. I do kind of like this very simple flat style that he does. Looks kind of eclectic too in terms of its influences of, you know, from sci-fi and pop culture. And again, I think from 1984, like I actually remember seeing this on the spinner rack when I was a kid. Even though Eclipse, I don't know, I guess Eclipse had some distribution in the grocery stores and the spinner racks and stuff like that, because yeah, I would see it at the corner store all the time, and I was mostly like concerned with picking up Marvel and DC stuff back then, but I do actually remember grabbing a few Zots back then. It's kind of a cool last page. Let's go with Fraga again. All right, that was Zot number 2. I don't know if I've got any more in here. So yeah. For 7. A very special issue of the new DNA Agents, number 10. The Airboy preview. Kind of remember DNA Agents from back in the day. I think they like kind of like government CIA agents or something that had some sort of mutation, or they were manipulated somehow, and then I'm kind of curious. I'll have to like I don't know how many series or what the runs are for this, but I should try and find like the first couple trades of it. Mark Evanier, Mike Sikowski, and Dennis Jensen. I do like a lot of the cheesy team books from back in the day. DNA Agents #2. Some nice, pretty dynamic artwork. Good splash pages. And lots of story, lots of panels, lots of dialogue. Science made them, but no man owns them. Don McGregor and Gene Colan. I know him. Ragamuffins, #1. Eclipse. January 1985. I thought a lot of this stuff was black and white, but there's actually a lot more color stuff in here than I realized. This kind of looks interesting, like a bit of a tale through time. I don't know if this is like autobiographical or what the deal is, but kind of a cool sketchy style with, again, the watercolor. And for 10 cents for these, you can't go wrong. This is kind of a cool cover. Maelstrom #8, Aircell. I grab the Aircell stuff whenever I see it because I know Dale Keown did a lot of covers. And like straight up pencils on the newsprint always looks really cool to me for some reason. I don't know why. Just because you see the texture of the pencils without any inks. It's like something you would have drawn in school on, like, you know, extra sheets of newsprint paper. It's cool stuff. Really see all the little hatching. I don't know if it's the light, it just doesn't want to focus. Or it's too close, maybe. Warlock 5, #10. Dennis Beauvais cover. So this guy, I think I first saw his stuff, or at least the first stuff I remember him doing was the Aliens. Not the very first Aliens miniseries, but the second one with the painted covers. I really took note of his artwork at that time, so now whenever I see his covers, if I notice them, I try and grab them. Yeah, Aircell had a lot of good art for this time period. Like, this is... Oh, Dennis Beauvais does the interiors on this too. Cool. I'm gonna have to look for more of these Warlock 5s. There might have actually been more in those bins that I didn't grab, so I'm gonna have to make a point of grabbing those. Wow, that's just like... Jeez, man, I would love to see what this stuff looked like in color. I'm assuming you didn't do it in black and white. A lot of depth in this art. All right, that's kind of a bit of a gem. Not maybe it's not worth anything, but man, the art is crazy. It's almost like a black and white photo, especially when you take painted art and you turn it black and white like that. Like, it really gives it a realistic quality. Stuff like that. Transformation sequences. I like how the lightning breaks up everything into panels. All right, we're almost through this first stack here. I'm probably gonna call it quits because we've been going almost an hour, a little over an hour now. So we'll wrap it up within an hour and a half. I want to keep these somewhat short. Okay, dirty pair 4-4. I don't think I have. Let's see what else I got here. What's this? Dark wood number 5. Again, air cell. Interesting cover, interesting logo. Oh, color interiors. Created and written by Gordon Derry, illustrated by Adrian Kleinbergen. I want to say, I think, yeah, Aircell was Canadian too. Ottawa, Ontario. Which explains why Dale Keown got his start with Aircell. Being a good Canadian boy. And this is kind of cool too. This is like, again, more painted artwork, or at least painted colors. Okay, this is, music's getting on my nerves a bit. Can't really get the camera to focus, but oh well. Let's see here. So I'll show this quick. Dirty pair number 4. Some nice Adam Warren black and white manga style. I think I might have a trade, if not for this series, then one of his other minis with the dirty pair. Good anime too. I haven't watched it in years, but I might have to revisit. Cool cover though. I like a lot of this. This is Eclipse too, and I think they went over to Dark Horse after a while. From the creator of Warlocks, Kiku-san. This was that. This one's also Aircell. $1988. See, now it's a division of Malibu in Newbury Park, California. So Aircell must have gotten bought at some point after the mid 80s, because this is 88. Still with the kind of the black and white line work. Very much like an anime fantasy style. I love me some X Mutants. I've got pretty much all the issues of X Mutants. There's a couple of the one-shots and a couple of the spin-offs that I'm still looking for, but I'm about 80 or 90% complete on pretty much everything that ever came out for X Mutants, including the later stuff. Mummy's Curse #2. Jim Somerville art, Barry Blair writing. Seems like pretty typical horror comic. Oh, there's #2, there's #1. Samurai #1, not to be mistaken for Samari from earlier in the stream. Barry Blair, creator, story by Bruce Blair, art by Barry Blair and Guang Yap. I like that, doing like a pin-up for the inside cover with the credits. It's got a bit neater art style, less shading. Underground. I always like when they do pinups in the back of the books, just to give you a little bit more personality to the characters. This is kind of a thick book. It's probably a 48 or a 64 pager. 48. Trickster King Monkey #1, based on the 16th century Chinese folk classic by Wu Chang'an. 1988 Eastern Comics. It looks like it's actually like traditional Chinese guys doing the art. And probably translated. And this looks cool. I mean, bashing guy's brains out here. Gonna have to check this one out later. Trickster King Monkey #1. Here we go, another Warlock 5. Oh, that's a cool cover. See, like, if anything, just for the covers alone, like, these are worth the price. For 10 cents, man. I like a punk chick with the studded choker. Dennis Beauvais does the art again. I don't know what year this is, though. 1986. #2, okay. And this art, it's just awesome. It's got like a total like Terminator meets Blade Runner meets like something out of a fantasy novel. It's weird, kind of a weird mix of genres. A lot of horror and gore in it too. My fingers won't stick. Yeah, see, like that's straight out of the Terminator. some sort of backup story here. Jets, Keith Nicholson, Jack Torrance. Look at that cover, man. That's wicked. A lot of attitude. Megaton number 7. Good old Butch Geese or Jackson Geese. Geese, I don't know how he says it. I think I heard it's a geese. April 87. Jerry Thomas Washington art. I think Savage Dragon made his first appearance, or first official appearance in a Megaton comics. Aside from Graphic Fantasy, I think there's 2 of those, Graphic Fantasy 1 and 2, but they were like very small print runs, almost like like just couple hundred printed. And Savage Dragon, or at least that's the first stuff that Eric Larson did, but I think Savage Dragon, the early incarnation of him, is in there, but I think it's Megaton that is technically where is considered the Savage Dragon's first appearance. Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Again, another TSR. Complete game inside. Okay. Comics Module 4. So there we got the counters. Game rules and errata. Plus a full comic story. So it looks like all the rule stuff is all at the end. There's not a lot to it. There's Zot number 31. It's kind of cool because, like, on the stream, it actually looks like a pen. And D20 sitting there, like it's kind of photoreal at a distance. And then you can tell it's just artwork, but still cool. Yeah, still Scott McCloud. Not in color anymore, though. You can definitely tell Scott McCloud has gotten more detailed. Even though he still has kind of the flat, cartoony style, there's a lot more detail in the objects and stuff. A lot more rendering going on, more hatching. Looks like they're actually playing a role-playing game. Yeah, I'm really curious to explore more of this Scott McCloud stuff, because just his take on comics in general in the Understanding Comics books is just great. So I do want to actually read some of his actual stories and like runs that he did. It's kind of cool. It's again another cool cover. And go Flying Saucers, World of Wood, number 5. There's just World of Wood number 5, subtitled Flying Saucers. So I guess this is all his like and Wally Wood is such a giant of the comic world too. These are probably reprints of his earlier stuff. Known for like a lot of the EC comics. of like the 50s and 60s. Or I guess even earlier, 40s and 50s. Flying Saucers Part 3, Final Objective. I wonder if this is original or if this is reprints. I'm going to have to figure that out. Skull of the Sorcerer. Al Williamson and Wallace Wood. Yeah, Al Williamson's stuff is great too. He did like the Star Wars newspaper strips. And I think he did like Tarzan or something like that too back in the day. But teenage dope slaves and reform school girls. Cool. It's another cool cover. P. Craig Russell's Peleus and Melisande, Classic Story of Love and Death, Part 1 of 2. December 85. He's another. P. Craig Russell is a great artist too. Very realistic style. Kind of like a fairy tale style story. All right. Let's dig into this. I got a box here. We'll see. We'll pull another 5 or 10 issues here before we call it a night. Arctic Comics #1. Souvenir Pavilion. I wonder if this was like a just that. Looks like some sort of like gift shop. It's definitely Canadian. Nick Burns. Interesting. So it's a lot of like northern Inuit tales and things like that. This is actually pretty cool. You know, like Eskimos fighting orca whales. Glossary of Inuit language. My northern summer vacation. Who doesn't like a lesbian Eskimo love story? I'm serious. George Alec Effinger's Neil and Buzz in Space and Time, #1, Fantagraphics. April 89. Henry Mayo artwork. Oh wow, this is kind of cool. Very detailed line work. I'm gonna have to up my camera game just so like some of this stuff will actually show up better on the stream. Maybe at some point I could do some read-throughs too on the more interesting titles. So the song's getting a bit old. I don't know if this art comes through, but it's really detailed. Like that. The Eye of Mongumbo, #1, Fantagraphics. July 89. Kind of looks like a funny book of some sort. An interesting cover too. I always like the side panels with the heads on the side. Like, I know that's been done a million times, but you don't see it too much nowadays. Freak Out on Infant Earths, Blackthorn, #1. Here we got a parody book. Blackthorn's another one of those companies where it's like, if I find stuff that's Blackthorn, I usually grab it. Did a lot of 3D comics, a lot of parodies, a lot of reprints back in the day. Oh, here we go. Created by Don Shin, Herb Wood, letters by Diane Valentino. Okay, so this is Don Shin probably writing and Herb Wood doing the art. Shout out to Don Shin. Anybody watching, go check out his Indiegogos. Go check out his YouTube channel. He's got the Beard Zerker. He's got the X-Farce Reloaded. Really good guy. That one I'll read later. I like a good pair comic. We got here Death Hunt #1, Eternity Comics. This is kind of an interesting. This guy got like a mix-up of mashup of sci-fi and fantasy. 1987. Scott Hanna artwork. Yeah, I'm familiar with his stuff. Just got some nice art too. Good use of like the gray tones, the mid tones. Help give the art some depth. Yeah, this looks fun. It's kind of like an adventure, sci-fi, fantasy. I'll have to check that one out. Oh, and this one's actually got a wraparound. All right, we'll do one more. Here's the last one. Vanity #1. Pacific Comics. Will Mignot. (1984), June 84. Interesting, really kind of flat colors or kind of basic colors. Got some really cool artwork in this too. Some kind of bit of cheesecake going on. I was surprised to see too that there were so many first issues in this mix, because I mean if you're gonna buy any back issue sight unseen, I mean, you can't go wrong for 10 cents a piece, but when they're number ones and they kind of like are right at the start of the story, that's kind of ideal to at least kind of give you an idea. Is like, this is something, is it up your alley? Is it something you'd want to actually look for follow-up issues from? So I kind of like that. All right. So I'll just leave some of these out here. Thanks for coming by the stream. If you end up catching this on the replay, I guess as I get further into this adventure of unboxing or, you know, doing show and tell on a lot of these back issues, maybe people will come back and start watching some of these old ones. If anybody sees the video and there's any of these issues that you're interested in seeing more of, or it's something that you're missing and you've been looking for it forever, just drop me a comment down below. Hit me up on Twitter at Acetic Smog. That's Qomicbook scrambled. Otherwise, yeah, we'll do this again soon. If not definitely by next weekend, if not sooner, but probably every Saturday or Sunday I'll do a comic stream. So hope you guys enjoyed that. On the way out, throw me a like, throw me a subscribe if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys on the flip side.
Yeah, I keep my pen strong. Yeah.